And so just to walk into 26 in California and to see all the men incarcerated, like, and just to see that their lives have come to this standstill, if you will. And the vast majority of them will tell you, my father wasn't around, or my father was locked up when I was 7. And so again, you have that repeated cycle of what should have been or what could have been. And I believe that as a people, we're losing so many great people, so many great individuals, because we're not critically thinking. We're not critically thinking about what our young girls are not thinking. They have sex. There's a mere possibility that not only might I end up pregnant, but I also might end up with HIV/AIDS or some kind of other infection. Not only are our young boys thinking that if I get involved with this gang or selling drugs, that I might, the consequences. And so I think that we're living for the moment. And we're not enforcing just the traditional values of what family looks like. And our children are suffering as a result of the error of the adults. Like, these children didn't ask to be here. And I think that's another thing that we need to go back and examine and take responsibility for.
There was a book written back in the 80s, I believe. I can't quote exactly who wrote it, but the name of it was The Disappearing Black Family. Disappearing Black Family, and that had to be about the 80s, and now we're witnessing all of that. But if it's in the book, if it's in scripture somewhere, we're supposed to come out with great substance.
Our latter days shall be greater than our former, and I believe that there's work that we have to do.
There's work we have to do.
There's work that we have to do.
And I don't believe in giving up.
Nope.
Here we go. Fatherless daughters, compared to those with present father figures, are in higher risk of teen pregnancy, college dropout, low self-esteem. In addition, fatherless daughters are in a higher risk of suicide, homelessness, and other disorders. We're going to go into some statistics here, and stop me if I'm wrong. This information is coming from 1997 newsletter of Bay Area Male Involvement Network. It says here, 60, and this is 97, this is 2012, 63% of youth suicides are from fatherless homes. 90% of all homeless runaway children are from fatherless homes. 85% of all children who have behavioral disorders come from fatherless homes. 80% of rapists motivated by displaced anger come from fatherless homes. 71% of all high school dropouts are from fatherless homes. 75% of all adolescent patients in chemical abuse centers come from fatherless homes. 70% of juveniles in state-orientated institutions come from fatherless homes. 85% of all youth in prison grew up in a fatherless home. Fatherless children are 20% less likely to attend college. Do those figures seem rather high to you? And this was in 97.
They seem extremely high, but they seem extremely real. Like, I'm not surprised. I'm just not surprised. I mean, I could think back in some of the research that I've done this year alone, and I would say that my numbers were probably ranging between 68% and maybe %. I didn't see as many in the 90 range as you stated. So I think that we're at a place now where there has been funding opportunities for programs like the After School Mattress Program and other kind of mentoring services that have actually came in and intervened, if you will, with some of the youth that we serve. But overall, I'm not surprised about those statistics. And I think that because so many people have that mentality of just survival and making it, that to reach for those dreams that are above and beyond the neighborhood, the block, the community, my cousin Pookie, you know, that it's not a norm. It's really not a norm. If you survey at-risk teens, like, they don't really have the outlook to see life past the age of 16 because they don't think that they'll make it. They don't think that they're good. They don't think, you know, because the father wasn't around to affirm them, they don't feel that whole self-worth piece.
Yes.
And that need to belong, just like Maslow's hierarchy of needs states.
Hierarchy of needs.
That need of belonging is really, really important. And
yeah, very much.
Yeah.
Inconsistent father-daughter relationships can have a devastating effect on a female's life by making her more vulnerable to outside influences. Single parents, in comparison to those from intact homes, are 53% more likely to marry as teenagers, 111% more likely to have children as teenagers, 164% more likely to be a single parent, 92% more likely to divorce if they marry.
Wow.
Yeah.
Those are quite alarming. But just to speak to the point about intimacy, I personally believe that a father's presence is the presence of a father is critical. However, I do believe that fathers do their daughters a disservice when they jump in, jump out, jump side to side, and they're not consistent in their daughters' lives. And I believe that that gives the child the impression that it's okay for a man to come in and for him to run back out and for you to let him back in. It's like, you're playing find a mouse with the kid, and it's not fair emotionally, it's not fair physically, and I'm certain that it's not fair financially if one month you show up and then the next month you're absent. And so it does a disservice. And so in as much as I would love for all fathers across the world to be actively involved in the lives of their daughters, they serve as a distraction when they come in with inconsistencies. So it's either, it should be, get it together, let's make this work as a family unit with some sense of consistency and normalcy, so that we can create a sense of normalcy, especially if that's not what it's been in the past, or stay gone.
Yeah, so we can develop
stay gone,
some
so we
kind
can
of
at least focus on the
consistency.
academic success or all of those things. And so that concerns me.
And what would you think about the cycle of, say, the mother didn't have her husband wasn't, and then that mother has her daughter, and then all of a sudden that father is not around. Do you believe that there's a cycle that's created from one generation to the next where the dependence is just on the women, and they never really tried to incorporate a man in the situation except no more for the monetary concern?
You know what? Being a woman of the cloth, I believe in generational curses. And I firmly believe that in an effort to break a generational curse, that you have to be intentional with your decisions. And so that means that if you know that absentee fathers or divorce, if it ranked high with your grandmother, and then you saw it duplicated with your mother, that you can't make those same haphazard situations, or now you know that you have to work twice as hard in an effort to maintain or sustain a healthy relationship with your mate. And so I believe that, again, that intimacy is critical. And I think that, do I think the independent woman, I can do this, I don't need a man? Do I think that takes up a lot of time and credits for a whole lot? Sure. But I'm here to dispel that myth that women are not super women. Like, at the end of the day, we may put on our makeup, comb our hair, go to work 5 jobs, the whole 9, provide for the kids. But even as the mothers, there is still an aching void that needs to be filled. There's still a princess within that mother needs to be spoken with, that needs to be counseled, that needs to be ministered to. There's still a hurt and a heartache within that mother that needs to be dealt with, from he left me, or he walked, or whatever happened, whatever that situation is. Oftentimes, mothers end up in that mode of survival where I don't have time to deal with this issue because I have to take care of the kids. The one thing that I can say about mothers who are the head of the household is that as a mother, the vast majority of the time, the option to be inconsistent with being a mother. Like, if you're the primary mother, if you're the primary parent,
day in, day out,
you can't hang your cape up and say,
24/7.
don't talk to me this week, I'm not going to be a mother. Like, it just doesn't happen like that. And so I think there's this unequal paradigm that happens. And I think that causes a whole nother spiral of effects.
And I'm glad you put it in a real simple term, generational curse, and it has to be broken somewhere along the line, whether it's intentional or unintentional. If we want to make things better, we have to break that curse. Because to me, that's what it is. I don't believe a parent should put on her child's back the uncomfortableness she may have experienced coming up. She should let that next generation, let them be free to live and to grow and
but
to
in order to do
experience.
that, you have to confront your own issues.
Yes, you do.
And you'll see that in Sparkle whenever you go see it.
Oh, yeah, I kind of remember that story.
Yeah,
theme.
so I mean, and Whitney Houston did a great portrayal of that whole mother-daughter piece. And having not confronted her own issues, she passed the torch down to her daughter. And what happened? Her daughter repeated it. So again, you have to be intentional. That intention, you're intentional about coordinating your clothes for the day. We're intentional that if we have a cold, we go to the doctor, or we should be intentional about going to the doctor or taking medication. And so people have to be equally as intentional about relationships and all of those things. We should be about our mental well-being. But somewhere down the line, we just hang that up and we figure we'll get back to it at another date, a later date, a date that never comes.
We have to watch what we watch on television.
We do. Like I promise you, I will start a campaign that all reality television shows need to be banned, because I mean, the foolishness that it feeds, and that I
wouldn't know. I just hear about it.
I hear about it. I totally hear about it, because it cannot be played in my home. But you hear about it, and it's just awful. So it's the day and age of reality shows, and it's not there isn't anything positive that's coming from it. So. Well,
we're gonna have to change that. Maybe we can start with this show right here.
Totally, I totally agree.
Daughters need the example of what a man really is, how one is supposed to act, what a man needs, and how he thinks. Fathers are the key to teaching their daughters about men.
I totally agree. I have two of my really good male friends, Khalid Scott and Derek Barber. And when I tell you, they are two amazing models of what healthy fathers should be to their daughters, as far as taking their daughters on daddy-daughter dates. I think both of them do comb hair. Coordinating, the clothing and all of that. They are amazing role models of what fathers should be. And so when I look at them, I see that there is hope. I see that you don't have to become a victim of your circumstances, and that you can change that generational curse. But again, you have to be willing to go twice the mile and walk that journey of being greater than that which you've been exposed to. But again, it goes back to my number one word, which is being intentional.
Exactly.
And so, but I do believe that a daddy, the father, should be the first one to tell you that he loves you. And through his actions, you should know as a young woman that your father loves you, so that when a young boy comes along and he tries to offer you a McDonald's Happy Meal or, a pair of Jordan gym shoes or a hairstyle, whatever it is that they offer in these days, whatever the going rate is for it, our girls will not be as apt to just take it because he said I love you, because I've been waiting and wanting to hear from a man that he loved me, and so now this one says I'm all over it now. And so
because daddy can set that bar kind of high.
Daddy sets the bar.
He set that bar up there.
Daddy sets the bar.
She'll know that she doesn't have to accept anything.
My daddy did the men in the world today a disservice, because at a young age. At a young age. And so growing up, I have standards, and there's just certain things that's not gonna fly.
And that's part of what discovering the princess within
is. And I'll just go through it and just share that The Princess Within is a book that I wrote in 2010, and it's all about self-esteem. It's all about loving yourself unconditionally. It's all about knowing that you are the apple of God's eye, and even from your natural father, knowing that you have a spiritual father. And it's really just about dealing with the emotions that so many young girls keep bottled up. I was talking to one of my girlfriends today, and we were talking about therapy because, again, I am an national advocate for therapy and services. And we were just talking about the things that she was dealing with. And I was like, well, what happens is when we don't deal with things, they typically just end up decaying in our body, and something happens, and then when you run into this wall, you're trying to figure out, how did I get here? And so the Unlock the Treasure, Discover the Princess Within is a tool that I'm using through my program and in schools and churches across the nation, just empowering girls to deal with their issues, to take the mask off, be okay with the hurt, to be okay with the pain, and to implement creative strategies to move beyond that. And so I think I'm on to something.
What I hear a lot from young people is, where do I go? Who do I talk to? Where they at?
Or nobody cares. Most of our young people think nobody even cares. I know for myself, when I see young people, it's okay for you to engage them and say, how are you doing? Like, they're young people. They're individuals. They deserve respect. Most of our kids, if I speak to them, they're like, oh, you spoke to me. Like, so they don't even know what happened to that principle of it takes a village to raise a child. Like, we've gotten so far removed from that.